Sorry it's taken so long to get this video uploaded. We had our appointment on Monday. Today's Thursday, so it's taken me a little bit to film this. But I just wanted to let you guys know what the results were and how that appointment went. So, before I go into the appointment stuff, those of you who have watched our videos know I was preparing to start IVF in Feb, but I found out I was pregnant in Jan, so that didn't go ahead. But when we were prepping to start IVF in February, we got all of the boxes ticked, majority of them, got our police checks done and signed all the paperwork. The only thing that we had left to do was see the fertility counsellor who's associated with the IVF clinic that we go to. And she approves us to go ahead. So that was the last thing we had to do. Obviously, when I made the appointment in January, I quickly cancelled it because I was pregnant. But I did decide to book again with her to coincide with my appointment with my obstetrician because they're in the same area, and I thought we're going to have the day off anyway. May as well, you know, have both appointments on the same day, and that way if we do decide to go ahead with IVF, all the boxes are ticked and we're good to go. So we had that appointment before we saw my OB, and that went well. We signed all the documents, answered depressing questions like if one of us passes away, will the other one be authorised to use the frozen embryos if there are any, that kind of thing. But I guess it's, you know, topics that need to be discussed and decided. So I really let myself down and you guys down because my filming before the appointment and after the appointment was appalling. Okay, so we're getting ready to go to our appointments. I'm feeling a bit anxious at the moment, but excited we'll get the answers that we've been waiting for so long.
Crab rice going.
So pretty, isn't it? After the appointment, the filming was non-existent, which is not what I planned to do. I think I was just so, I don't know, we were just feeling emotional and you know, as soon as we got in the car I started crying, so the filming just totally slipped my mind, and I'll go into that later. So we saw our OB and he gave us the news that our baby did have a chromosomal abnormality called triploid, and the miscarriage had nothing to do with me, which was a relief to hear. And so triploid is where instead of having 46 chromosomes, you know, 23 from the mum, 23 from the dad, there's 69, so a whole other set of chromosomes, which happens when the egg doesn't separate or divide properly. So babies with triploid, most of them are miscarried in the early months, and I don't think many, it's a very, very, very rare chromosomal abnormality, and I don't think many, if any, make it to a live birth, and if they do, they don't live for very long. So we found out that that was the cause of the miscarriage, which was again a relief, as I said, and discussed what's next, and where we go from here. Our OB helped us make the decision. He suggested we just jump straight into IVF and see what happens, where I'm apparently a great candidate for IVF, so he thinks we'll hopefully be successful, and it gets us away from the path that we've been on of just trying and struggling, and it's something a bit different. He also said that it can act as a bit of an insurance policy, you know, for if later on we try naturally and it doesn't happen, at least we've got hopefully frozen embryos that we can use. So figured there's no harm in doing it now, jumping straight in. So it's something different, and it'll be good to have a little bit of control over the situation, because we've just, over these months, many months of trying and having miscarriages, it's just been a journey that has felt like it's so out of our control. So I did ask my OB about the possibility of us doing genetic testing on embryos prior to transfer and freezing, PGD it's called, pre-implantation genetic diagnosis. But he suggested that he wouldn't recommend that for us for a few reasons. One, it's super expensive, which I already knew. Two, it's not foolproof. Of the 4 cells, they only test 1 cell, which is why it's not foolproof. He told us how he once delivered a baby for a woman who wasn't a patient of his. This woman had genetic testing done on her embryos to select only female embryos and not male, because they carried a genetic condition in their family, haemophilia. It's haemophilia. And so he delivered this baby and announced it's a boy, and the room fell silent. He was just like, what have I said? So yes, it's not foolproof. And the third reason is getting it done can cause damage to the embryos. I don't think we'll do that, but doing IVF in itself and the screening, there is a bit of screening that goes into, for those of you who have done IVF, you know, they monitor the embryos as they develop and stage them in, you know, grades and quality. So there is a bit of a screening process. Some chromosomal abnormalities in embryos are visible without genetic testing. So for example, if we did happen to create another triploid embryo, it wouldn't be selected as a candidate for transfer or freezing because it wouldn't look right. It's very unlikely for, as I said, the condition's so rare, triploid, that it's not likely to occur again, but it's good to know that some chromosomal abnormalities are clearly visible in that developmental stage before transfer and freezing when you do IVF. So it is a bit of a screening process for us and makes us feel a little bit more secure in hopefully increasing our chances of having a healthy embryo. So as for when we start, I'd be doing an antagonist cycle, which means I can start IVF with my natural cycle. Because I had a miscarriage a month ago, I'm not sure when my cycle is due. I know from my first miscarriage, my cycle came, I'm usually on a 32-day cycle, and it was about 37 days, so it was a few days late. I'm not sure how many days I am now. I think I'm around 37, so it should be arriving any day. So after seeing our OB, we had an appointment with the IVF nurses who are in the same building. They went through my IVF cycle, dates, injections, medications, all that fun stuff, and discussed when we could start. Because we had our appointment with the fertility counsellor only a couple of hours prior, they of course didn't have any of her paperwork, which is the last box that we needed to get ticked before we could go ahead, before we could pick up any medications and, you know, be approved basically. My period was due, I thought, any day or any moment at that point. So they said it may not be, you may not be able to start this month. You may need to wait another month and start then if we don't get the paperwork back in time. So having been told by my OB that we could start, you know, with as soon as my period comes, we could jump straight into IVF, and then be told by the nurse that if they don't get the paperwork back in time before my period comes, I will have to miss out on this month and start the following month. I was really surprised about how totally disappointed I felt in that moment. I wasn't expecting to do IVF straight away. You know, I knew it was potentially a possibility, which is why I organised to have the appointment with the counsellor and get that done. But I think that I got excited by the thought that we could just jump straight in, start any day, and I didn't want to have to waste this month, this cycle, which was just because of paperwork, you know, when it was all going to be fine anyway. So I didn't get upset in the appointment, but I was starting to get a bit of a lump in my throat, only when my husband kept saying, oh no, it's fine, you know, don't worry about the paperwork, don't rush it, you know, we'll just, you know, if it happens, if the paperwork comes back and you know, it all matches up, we'll do it, but don't, he kept telling the nurse, you know, it's fine if we don't do it this month, we'll just do it next month. And I was just kind of sitting there thinking, well, I'm trying to be patient, but it's not really fine. You know, I don't want to waste, to me it would feel like wasting a month. And waiting another month, which we all know, waiting time is not our friend. But obviously this is something that Tim doesn't completely understand. He doesn't have that instinct, and I can't find the words. He doesn't have that longing, desperate longing that us women do, and so we left the appointment. They just said, call us when you get your period, and we'll go from there. Of course, because it's Easter this weekend, so it's a short week, so I was hoping that they'd get the paperwork by Thursday. Anyway, I wanted this video to be short, not long-winded, and it has been long-winded. So I'll wrap it up, but basically I'll do another video soon about what's next with IVF and when we're starting, go through the medications and stuff like that. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.